Hey guys, Jared Codling here, new hack every week, and today we're going to talk about hacking Instagram because these days that's real fame, right? So let's get on into it. So why would you want to get big on Instagram, get a heap of followers, and all that kind of stuff? Well, firstly, like Instagram's great for free traffic, and promoting your brand. You might want to actually get famous, and it's still possible. So what I would say is like even if you're not completely sold on Instagram, it's getting harder and harder. So, if you get any later to the party, I mean, we're all pretty late to start with, it's just going to get harder and harder. So they're cracking down on so much stuff, it's kind of like now or never. Just a note, so I'm not personally very big on Instagram, but, I work on projects that are very Instagram focused. So I do, a fair bit of paid on Instagram, but then also just been helping out other people. But some of this stuff is secondhand, but I promise it's accurate. So I've actually met up with people with over 1 million followers in the last couple of weeks, and I've been talking with people who've grown very rapidly, and so all of this stuff is kind of coming straight from there, and I've really interrogated them as to what's working because I'm going to do this myself really soon, and I haven't played around with some of it, but more than anything, I'm just so close with some people who this is their main thing. So first up, bots are kind of dead. So what I mean by bots in this case is there's two kinds of bots really. There's fake accounts and there's automation. Automation works great if you do it right, whereas fake accounts do not. So people know when an account has a heap of bot followers because the engagement rate is so low. And Instagram's killing fake accounts faster than ever. They're getting really good at it. So you'll see a lot of accounts. If you have a look on, say, socialblade.com, which is a little bit down because of the API changes, but it still kind of works. But you'll see some people that just took big hits, and so they can lose 20,000 followers in a day on a 100,000 account or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, they bought their fucking followers. Instagram hurts you in other ways as well. So one of the big things that I'm going to talk about is how your engagement rate is such a huge factor, and that's what they really care about now. And so if you've got a heap of shitty followers because you've bought them, it actually makes it a lot trickier to get in the explore feed, to show up anywhere and actually get new followers. So they do actually penalize you quite heavily for having those shitty followers, even though you might have that vanity metric. So what do Instagram care about? Well, firstly, engagement ratios, as I mentioned, and then second is popularity. And I'll show you what that means, but it really is a popularity contest. So firstly, let's start with popularity. Now, for those of you who've been around in the SEO world, back in the day, Google used to run everything on PageRank. And so I'll keep this really simple, but basically how it works is the more popular a page is, the more influence it's got. And so the way that Google's original algorithm, and this is what really set them apart and catapulted them to be the most successful search engine, the way that it works is it basically says, well, we can't manually go and look and see, is this a trustworthy site? Is it a valuable site and all that kind of stuff? Instead, let's simplify it and we'll go, well, if lots of other sites link to it, then it must be good. They wouldn't link to a shitty site. And back in the day, before spammers came around, that was great. That worked really well. And so the idea is that it gets exponentially harder to be at the top. So if you were, for example, to get a link to your website SEO-wise from the front page of Facebook, Google would go, shit, Facebook says that they're okay. Facebook has, so many people linked to Facebook, so they're already really popular. Let's give these guys a lot of weight. And so, I've got this diagram here which will basically show that, a PR10, that is the ultimate. That's, back in the day, there was only 3 or 4 sites in the world like that. And then exponentially more for PR9. There might be hundreds of sites there, then thousands for PR8, and so forth, until you've got billions of sites here. To become a PR8, for example, you'd need 2.8 million PR1. So you'd need so many shitty ones linking to you. Now, the same thing actually happens for Instagram. So they look at it and they go, okay, you could have, 100,000 followers, but if they're all from shitty accounts with under 1,000 followers, that's very different than somebody who's got 100,000 followers, but some of them have 1 million followers and some of them have, 5 million followers. That would actually, you'd have a lot more power. So even though you've got the same follower count, the fact that your followers have more followers is a huge factor. So it's not just about how many followers you have, it's how many followers your followers have, which basically brings me to the point that if you have a bunch of shitty followers that you've bought, they're going to have really low amounts of followers, and then those shitty followers they have are also going to have low amounts, and so it just really ends up that you've just got such a low quality network, as opposed to, you know, if you had some of the big guys in your niche followed you, it would make all the difference. So sorry to get into the weeds a little bit there. I just wanted you to understand that concept, because the idea is that, yeah, we want to end up with you know, the top guys liking you and interacting with you, because that's how you do really well. So, you know, what this means is, like, if a high rank page likes your shit, then you'll do a lot better than if a low rank page does. And you could get, you know, 1,000 low rank people, and you'd be way better off just getting one person who was really, really top level to like your shit. And so, you know, when I say do a lot better, like, where? The explore feed. So that's really where everybody who is any good is shooting for these days. That's where the big players get most of their new followers. And I've, you know, been talking to some, and they're getting 10, you know, they could have like over 1 million followers and still be getting 10,000 followers a week, 30,000 followers a week. And it's all from the explore feed. That's where they get all of them. They don't really care about hashtags after a certain size. So for a while, hashtags are very important when you're kicking off, but then eventually the explore feed is where it's at. So to rank in the explore feed, the following stuff matters. Firstly, your overall account rank, you know, as I explained before. You know, how many followers do your followers have, and so forth and so forth. Your click-through rate and popularity of the individual post, so the engagement rate on that post, and then when it shows in the explore feed, like, how well does it do? So you've got to have good content. And that, you know, that's how is it performing on your page, and how is it performing in the explore feed once it's there. And, you know, have any high rank accounts liked it? And so that is the that's really the key here, because I'll show you what all the top guys are doing, like with over 1 million followers, and, you know, it's not that easy to get to the point where you're doing what they're doing, but I need you to understand what they're doing, because if you want to go play a long game of Instagram, you at least need to know what the top guys are doing. And so then the other thing is relevancy. So, you know, if you're in the travel niche, you know, and somebody completely unrelated likes it, it's going to be less powerful than if one of the big travel pages was to like what you do. So, you know, how do people game this? Well, the big guys, the really big guys, all do it from networking. And I know that when I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean? It's fucking so much work, right? Networking and all that. No, they've got a bit of a process to it. And, you know, you might hear about these like groups and stuff like that, and they do work. But the big guys, they've got these private groups. They're Telegram groups. So they use Telegram so they can communicate with each other. And they're pretty niche relevant normally. So there might be one on food, and it's got 50 people in there. And they've all got over 100,000 followers. Some of them were over 1 million. And what happens is, you know, they have auto-like bots set up. And, you know, some of them are manual, some have got bots set up. But within 15 minutes of post going live, everybody from that group goes and likes and comments it. And then it automatically, because all of the relevant ones, all of the relevant big dogs in that industry, in that niche, jump on it so quickly, it just ranks in the explore feed every time, like clockwork. And so that's what they're doing. That's what the big guys are doing. I'm not saying that's easy. I just want you to know how to do it, because, you know, if you end up playing at that level, this is what you're going to do. So it ends up a networking exercise. And so just one caveat, like, they don't want to know you until you're already big. So you may find smaller groups, like for like groups and stuff like that. What I would say is just be careful with spammy ones. You know, if there's a lot of people using bots and stuff in there, you know, that could actually hurt you. And the other thing is relevancy. So keep in mind relevancy. So I'm not saying that you know, don't do this until you get 100,000 followers. What I am saying is be careful who you do this with, because that's a big factor. So how do you get seen by them? You know, how do you get on the radar of the big guys in your industry, or on the radar of celebrities and get seen by them and all that kind of stuff? You can at least hack this, and so this is something that I was told as well and shown how they do it. So if you use the same hashtags as someone, you're seen as really relevant to them. And sometimes people use really obscure hashtags. So I'm going to show you like an example. So the less posts on a hashtag, the better. So if you click on a hashtag, you can see how many posts have actually used that hashtag. Large accounts, it's going to be harder to find one-offs, but, you know, this is Lena Dunham. I think she's the chick out of Game of Thrones. I think that's her. Anyway, she's famous. She's got shitloads of followers. And yet she has this hashtag, which is a really obscure one. And I mean, you'd have to make it fit with whatever you're doing. But this hashtag here, if you were to go and use a hashtag like that, it's only got 107 posts, and you were to use some other random ones that she's used, you'll actually show up in her explore feed. You're going to have a much higher chance to. So what happens is like you'll have an increased chance, like a really highly increased chance of that account seeing you in their explore feed. It's not guaranteed, but if you do this at scale, especially if you pick a bunch of obscure hashtags that they're like the only person they've used, you'll pick up some followers that have big accounts because they're going to at least see what you're doing, and then a percentage will like what you do. Now look, yes, this is a lot of work. There are people that automate this, and that's the thing with Instagram. I can't just go, I'm going to hand you some automation tools. I'm going to give you some. But the problem is it changes so quickly that, these tools don't last forever. So next thing is, obviously you only want to be showing these people really good content. And in general, you only want to be posting good content to your page. And that can be really hard to come up with good content all the time. It's like an ongoing job, right? I'm going to show you how to find it. It's up to you if you steal it or you just learn from it. That's up to you. Like I'm not your boss. You can do what you like. So typically I say test everything, and you just can't do that here. So you can't just go keep posting and deleting shit. It mucks up the algorithm. You can't just go split test a heap of different images. It doesn't work that way. Fortunately, there is a solution. So we start by looking at niche relevant pages. If you're in a travel niche, you'll want to look at travel pages, but not the big ones. So if they're a big one, you're going to, firstly, you could get caught out if you're going to steal it. Not that I'm advising to do that. But, the other thing is you could end up competing as well. You want people who, they've got really low follower amounts. So we want to find posts that have done really well for them, but they didn't get any reach because the person's just too small. So hardly anyone saw it because they got fuck all followers, but that was a really high performing post for them. That's a really strong indicator that this would perform well anywhere. And if a bigger person took it up, it would do really well. And just an example of this, Steve that's in the group, he got in a lot of trouble for this, but he basically borrowed a video from YouTube that had a really small following, but it had done really well for that account. And then it went viral and it got on the news and it got like 10 million views or something like that. Now he got busted by Facebook, but the principle there was, he found a piece of content that, he saw potential in. And then when you put it into an environment where you've already got 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, it'll just go crazy. And so that's the principle here. So I jumped to popsters.us. This is a website that's just really great for analyzing Instagram pages and each of their posts. And, at Popsters, you want to chuck in niche relevant pages. So by niche relevant, jump on Instagram and just have a look for a hashtag and just go find some that are like 2,000 to 10,000 followers. And so I'll give you an example here. This one here, like you can see down the bottom here, it's like Nico is the one that I'm actually looking at right now, I think. Now, their average engagement rate on a post is actually very high, 29%. So even though they've only got 1,000 followers, their engagement rate is through the roof, which is just great. It means these guys have got great content. Even though they haven't done that well in expanding, they've got really great content. Now, we want posts with a significantly higher engagement rate on the post than the page average. So if we have a look at that, you can actually sort up the top here. You can actually sort by ER, engagement rate. And so this one is their top post. It's got 81% engagement rate. So 81% of the people who like their page interacted with this post. So that one right there, this is just a crazy good piece of content. And so I'd say, either steal it or copy the general idea from it, but that one's a really good one. Let's have a look at another example. This is just this World Discover Art. So they've only got 1,000 followers. Their average engagement rate on a post is 3.7%, which is, pretty low for that amount, but still, it's pretty average. But they've got a small disengaged audience, so if you're going to steal it, you're not going to get caught. But then we look at this post here. The engagement rate on that post is 16%, but the next best one is only 8%. So this is an outlier. This is like significantly better than anything else they've posted. And they've posted plenty. They've posted 174 things, right? And so this one just stands out because their average is 3.7. The next best is 8. So this is that would perform pretty much anywhere on like a travel kind of, a big travel page. So that's a quality piece of content right there. So this is how you find the content. As I say, do what you like with it. So next bit, moving on from that. So we've got our content, but why can't we just buy it? Well, you kind of still can, but you don't want to just go and buy heaps of shitty followers. You got to be really smart about how you bot. So just a quick story. George Moulos, he's my old housemate and mentee. He was Airbnb in this dude's house in Vienna, and the dude has a shitload of phones. He got talking, and they're now good friends. And the guy sells Instagram automation, and he's really good at it. And so he's grown George's Instagram following really, really quickly. I tried to pull some stats, but it just wasn't working for me. But George's got over 10,000 followers now. I can't pronounce this. They do have an English version of the site, but it's insta, einfach, or something like that, .com. So George has been using it to quickly grow like 10,000 followers. George is very engaged. He's built a really strong Instagram following, and it does like follow and unfollow and all that kind of stuff. And while I wouldn't say that stuff is the way to go once you get past a certain amount, if you're kicking off an account, this is just such an easy way. And so George, he strongly believes in using this service. Next up, so just some principles. So like engagement rate is key, and you do not want bot followers. So you want to actually remove them all. By I think that you block them and then unblock them is one way that you can make that happen. And then if you block them then unblock them, they can refollow you in the future. It's fine with the algorithm. So Michael Sanchez, he can jump in here. He's in the group. He's the one who told me this strategy. But if you just wanted to basically have a look at your overall following and go, I want to just delete all the people who are non-interactive. There's a tool called Jarvee, which is it's an automation tool for Instagram with a lot of features. And I won't get into the weeds right now, but because there are tutorials on how to do that. But the idea would be that you only want to keep people who interact with your posts. If they've never interacted with a post, just get rid of them. And you could even get stricter than that and go, if they haven't interacted in the last 180 days, get rid of them. So that way, your overall engagement rate for your page goes up, and everything will work better. Because everything goes better when your engagement rate goes up. So your individual posts will perform better. You'll have a higher chance of ending up in the Explore feed. Just everything works better. The other thing is use hashtags, but use them carefully. So don't go spamming the major ones. And this is something that people screw up. They'll go do like 30 hashtags, which are all like travel and like all the big ones, and you actually get penalized for that. You want to keep them really relevant, and you don't want to overload. So what I've been told is about 15 hashtags on a post, you start to get overload territory, and you want to use some natural ones. So breakdown, this is just what I've been told by Michael Sanchez, but he's tested this so extensively. You want like 30% on your majors, 40% on like minors, which are like niching down, and then 30 to like natural and random. This is like what a normal person would do, and the main thing is because a lot of people bot this and they just automatically apply hashtags and all that kind of stuff, and Instagram has just cracked down on it, especially people who just spam all the major ones. So that's just something to keep in mind. Next up, viral Instagram bots. So I know the guys at directheroes.com. Now it's in beta, like it's you'll see, like they're coming up with a new user interface and all that kind of stuff now, but it's basically ManyChat for Instagram, and they're the first of their kind. They're the only ones doing this. And no one really knows about them yet. They have not marketed this at all because they're just trying to get the product right, and that's really good news for you. It works like this: it listens for a DM, it hears a specific keyword, and then it responds. It's that simple. Soon it's going to have more complex sequences because there is some extra functionality there, which has already been built. They just haven't rolled it out yet, which is pretty cool. How hard can it go? Like, well, we're still working that out, but I know we can spend like hundreds and hundreds of messages a day. Because the person technically DM'd you first, you can message back no problem. And you don't get flagged. This is not like if you're doing manual outreach, because obviously you can only message so many people out of the blue. Because they messaged you first, you don't actually hit those limits. That's the beauty of this. So you can go pretty hard with this. A few things about it. So it's definitely still in beta. This is a good thing. So if any of you guys sign up, I think it's like $100 a month or something like that, but I think he's about to change the pricing model. But look, say you know me, say Jared Codling, New Hack every week, and the CEO will personally help you set shit up. Like he will jump in, he'll help you set up your campaign, and And here's the other thing: they're super open to feedback. So they're still building out this system. And if you've got functionality that you want to suggest or you want to talk about with him, Jeff, he's a really cool guy, and yeah, he can definitely help you out. So here's how you run a viral bot, and we've done a little bit of this stuff, and I'm going to do it way more aggressively very soon. But we have played around with this, and it's going to work. We're just working out the best way to do the ads, but I'm going to show you some examples. Firstly, you need to get them to DM you, and I'm not that good at Instagram, so this was a bit confusing for me, and I think we need to explain it better in the ad. That's the best way to do it. In your post, just explain it really well. But you can also get them to message you from stories. So just not paid ad stories, but organic stories. You can actually get them to message you from there, and it will work. So if you've already got a decent following, it'll work really well from there. If you don't have a following, you're going to rely on ads to kickstart it. So you just got to be smart about how you do that. And I'll show you the methodology in a sec. So just an example. Okay, I'll edit those in. Wait, let's see if I can go back and... Okay, here we go. So this is one. So we're basically saying message us to win. Yeah, it's lighting up. So, okay, so we're saying message us to win. And so then I'll hit message, and then the thing is they have to actually type in on the ball, choose us, and then message, which is a pain in the ass. So if they're not really good at Instagram, this is not necessarily the best way. We're going to have to work that out a little bit better, and even just pointing down to the little send icon. But yeah, once that gets sent, then it will automatically send a response to the inbox. So I'll show you an improvement on how to do the ad. So you want to make it so that they're like really pointing here. So see how this is like bouncing, and it's like here, like go to this point. So that's an improvement we would make on the ad. But just a quick note on paid. So Instagram stories are super cheap right now. It's about 5 times cheaper than a normal Facebook ad, like CPM wise. So yeah, I was doing some campaigns the other day where the audience is normally about $30 CPM. It's quite an expensive audience. I was able to get like $8, $7 on Instagram stories. So it's just super cheap. So to kickstart these viral posts, Instagram story ads are just beautiful. And it looks a little bit like this. So you might run like an Instagram stories ad. So you run in this ad, and then that ad actually pushes over to a post, which is a DM win to enter kind of post, as I showed you before. And just really good at explaining that post how to do that. But then immediately it's going to listen for that, and then it's going to DM a reply, which is get an extra entry for every friend that enters. So much like we do the viral bot on Facebook, this is going to work exactly the same way. And we've been able to make this work pretty effectively, to be honest. So from there, it's just going to go viral. It's that simple. So I'm going to be split testing this really heavily and show you guys some campaigns over the coming weeks. Just finding the right ones, the right giveaways and that kind of stuff. But I would say, if this is something that interests you, reach out to Jeff at Direct Heroes, because he's willing to play ball. Really cool guy. So we're still working out the kinks, but it's super promising because no one else is doing this. That's where there's this huge opportunity, because it's just not saturated like messenger bots on Facebook. They're very saturated right now. So to summarize, to grow an account, this is just the basic rundown of it. Firstly, you want to use some level of automation, like the insta, or whatever it is, and you want to use some level of automation to gradually grow. So that's going to do your follow on and all that kind of stuff. You want to keep your account cold, and you only want to keep engaged followers. So something like Jarvie can work really well for that. You want to borrow great content, so you only have wins. So you want to know before you post something that it's going to perform really well. And so you want evidence of that before you do it, even if it's just grabbing inspiration from somewhere. You want to make sure you're using solid hashtags on these posts. So yes, you've got great content, but then you've just got to make sure that your hashtags are really relevant. Keep it super relevant, and also have a really good mix. Use Direct Heroes for viral campaigns for rapid growth. So that's just a way that you can grow exponentially and get an edge on everybody else. Because, once direct to is further along, you're going to be able to DM your list like a broadcast message to get engagement on posts. So you can actually hit them up and go, your full list and go, hey, would you mind like commenting on this post or liking this post and stuff like that, or whatever you want to do. Get more creative than that, but I'm just saying that you're going to be able to message them all for free and get a great result. Because as I said, like the faster that all these accounts jump on your post, the more likely you are to end up in your explore feed. So as soon as you are big enough, you want to network with those 100k plus follower accounts. Now, this might be when you're at the 10,000 mark, you get in some smaller groups where you all like each other's shit, but that's really the way to go. But as soon as you can, you want to get into those major groups. And then the goal is to eventually get into the explore feed. That's where you want to end up, because that's where you're going to grow really, really fast organically. So that's it, guys. Any questions, chuck them in the comments. We've got some really strong Instagram experts within the group. Some guys are really killing it. They've helped me put together this hack video because there's a lot of moving parts, and I know this isn't incredibly hacky. There's a lot of stuff here, but yeah, if you if you do all this stuff right, it really works. Instagram is a bit of a long game, but it can be really effective. Talk soon, guys.